Yeah, no problem. So through the chair, how has the DEI coordinator improved the office of the public defender over this past year? Through the chair.
Very good, thank you. One of the main objectives for the DEI coordinator for me was to create kind of an interface between the public defender's office and the community at large. Public defender's office, as all are aware, often suffer from kind of poor public opinion of the work that we do. Mr. French comes from an educational background, so he's been uniquely well qualified to reach out to the schools. This is in an effort to try and give presentations to younger people and give them ideas about opportunities that may be available to them in the future for employment. This could be anything from working in a public defender's office, honestly, to a career in law enforcement. But he's been absolutely irreplaceable in using that skill set and allowing us to partner and even engage in some contractual relationships. For example, I believe with Greece Olympia, right now the students are given credit for working in an internship program with my office. We're hoping that in the future this will create kids with a little bit more motivation, even work in public service, or just have a better understanding of what we do. That's been the main thrust of the work that he's been doing.
Wonderful, thank you. And through the chair, can you provide a list, follow-up list of all of the stakeholder groups and individuals in the community that the public Office of the Public Defender has partnered with over this past year?
I could provide that list, not tonight,
yeah,
but I can get that together and provide it by tomorrow.
Thank you. In terms of appropriations and moving over to page 486, the line item, it's 501055 mandated training. There seemed to have been a big sort of jump from the 2023 to 2024 amended. It went from 10,000 to 92,000, and then the budget request for next year is back down to 5,000. So I'm just wondering what accounted for that jump in mandated training this past year.
Through the chair, the mandated training is primarily for our family court attorneys. Family court attorneys are not covered by our Carl Herring grant, so the training opportunities that we provide them or that they're obligated to make themselves available for is funded by the county money. So that would account for the increase.
So through the chair to the administration, following up on that, you won't need that in this year's budget?
Through the chair, that would be related to the grant money that we do get for other family court purposes.
Got it. Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, it looks like there's about a $200,000 increase in salaries for next year's budget. Is that
With regard,
yes,
through the chair for the public defender's office.
Yes.
I apologize, you're looking at which line?
Salaries on page 486.
Yeah, we're trying to accommodate, right now we don't know what the outcome of the CSEA contract will look like, so we're trying to make a fair guesstimate as what that will look like, plus also factor in for cost of living increases, as well as additional staff that we're hoping to hire and retain.
Thank you. And again, on that same page, under professional services, there was a similar, trying to find it here. So professional services, which is 504320, there was a significant increase in last year's budget as well, and then it's dropped down for the proposed budget this year. So what accounted for that significant increase? It was up over $1 million.
Through the chair, professional services is best explained by me to refer to expert services. So we regularly have to consult and engage with experts who can guide us with regard to more specific areas of representation, such as mental health defenses or analysis of a weapon. So we do regularly consult with those services as the number of cases increase and the number of trials increase. Having to have access to expert services is increasing as well.
So, again, through the chair to the administration, is that also covered by grants? Because the question was why it drops back down to under 300,000 for next year's budget.
That's the best guesstimate that we can have going forward. We'll be coming forward with the referral.
So if you need additional funding, it would,
Yes.
got it. Thank you. It looks like there's an increase in books and periodicals for next year's budget. What type of books or periodicals are purchased?
Through the chair, we try to provide the attorneys with anything from handbooks related to updates in vehicle and traffic law, updates in criminal procedure law, criminal law. We all receive a very large book, a very expensive book that basically is the basis of the work we do. And then we also may, on occasion, get more focused works related to any Fourth Amendment, Second Amendment issues. There's constant treatises coming out. As the law continues to change, we continue to get updated, and again, making those available to the attorneys so that each has access to the books that they need that can account for an increase.
Thank you. One last question. So line item 505040, equipment, again, this past year, there was again, a significant increase, went from 2023 of 17,000 to up over 900,000 this year. So again, what explain that increase?
Through the chair, that is related again to our anticipated move as we're hopefully going to be moving into our new space within the next 6 months or so. A lot of that is related towards expanding the family court offices, providing them with furniture and equipment as we're anticipating the move and expanding into our new space.
Thank you. So the equipment was budgeted to be purchased in 2024, and you don't need it for next year.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. I yield the floor.
Other questions? Simmons?
Chair, page 305. Shows a decrease of 2 million. What agency contracts have been cut as a result?
Sorry, Chairman. I got the page reference. I just missed that last part of the question. It kind of faded out.
Right, so the question is, what agency contracts have been cut as a result of a $2 million decrease? Contracts?
So, yes, I'm sorry, Chairman. The big fluctuation, what you see on this page, is the result of about roughly $3.3 million worth of grants in contractual services in the 24 amendment budget, but only about $1.2 million included in the 2025 budget. So right off the bat, there's already a $1.1 million differential. A lot of that was related to the grant for additional pretrial services, which we, for the most part, passed through to the company pretrial services. This particular line also includes what we spend money on for polygraph services, sign language interpreting, document translation, background checks, and the maintenance of a variety of computer systems, primarily caseload.
Is Discovery part of the pretrial service?
I'm sorry, with pretrial service a line item?
Discovery?
No, Chairman, Discovery was not really related to pretrial.
Why is the probation division seen it?
Chairman, that really is directly related to the grants that are received throughout the year. We grant revenue from New York State related to Raise the Age, gun-involved violence elimination grants, several DCJS grants, and then they also received, like the district attorney, like the public defender, the conflict defender received funding for discovery reform.
No?
Chair, how is the workforce development initiative over the past year? I'm sorry. Have we seen an increase in interns and prospective employees through the program?
Through the chair, we have definitely seen an increase with interns coming to the Department of Public Safety. We're proud to say that over the last couple of years, we've actually been able to hire 4 of those individuals. And we certainly feel as though we're going to hire additional ones once they finish their education piece to qualify them for jobs within the Department of Public Safety. The other piece to that is the ability to provide training, and in particular leadership training, to our current workforce. That was, if you will, a gap that existed within the organization, and especially since a number of retirees or retirements took place. So we feel extremely positive about what we've done over the last couple of years.
Thank you, sir. And through the chair to the administration, was Weights and Measures able to implement an EV charging station inspection program?
Through the chair, Weights and Measures has been very much involved with a number of initiatives, especially associated with consumer protection, and EV is part of that, where they're able to go out and review the EV charging stations that exist in Monroe County. There's over 800 of those and continually growing. So they're doing a great job as far as identifying where those are, monitoring where those are, and ensuring that the public is paying an appropriate price for that particular resource.
Thank you, sir. And through the chair to the administration, we had 2 vacancies in the biology section of the crime laboratory. Have they been able to fill those 2 vacancies?
Through the chair, I believe so, and Mr. Clark is in the audience here. John, you're here. So we hear that we have 1 vacancy still needing to be filled.
Thank you.
We just finished one a couple of weeks ago. Right.
Wonderful, thank you. Through the chair to the administration, can you give us an update on the bus patrol program? While Hilton, East Irondequoit, Webster, Greece, and Bosse's 1 have implemented the program, do we know if any other school districts plan on implementing this in the coming years?
Through the chair, that's been an extremely, I guess we could say, unfortunately, a successful program, as over 6,000 citations have been identified in the last year. To your question, we continue to hear, and it was most recently reported in the news, that the city of Rochester considering utilizing that resource and legislation. We also continue to hear that additional suburban agencies are coming on board, but we don't have any commitments as of yet.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to move to page 454, continuing public safety Director's Office. Why does IS City Place interdependent charges increased by roughly 50,000. What's the reason for this increase?
Chairman, like I described in a prior committee, that increase in the charge for the building costs is primarily directly related to the legislature's approval of the capital fund, roughly 12 or 14 million dollars for the reconstruction of that building. You will see that debt service on page 412 of the budget book. It's a little over $1 million that is now spread to the occupying departments.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, on page 455, public safety legal representation. Why does mandatory training fall by $178,000 from 2024 amended, and don't we anticipate this training next year?
We do, Mr. Chairman, and this is all grant funding received through the Conflict Defender's Office, so expect a referral later on this year.
Wonderful. And though a small expense, why do recruitment expenses fall to 0 from 3,000? Is this something that's gone to a different area?
Through the chair, as a result of the JEDI funding that we received through ARPA, that's really been the focus and the resource for us to move forward with a robust recruitment and retention effort.
Thank you, sir. Moving to page 457, under public safety probation, just a couple questions here. Through the chair to the administration, what professional services will be provided to justify the $227,000 increase from the 2024 budget?
Mr. Chairman, this particular line item on this page for professional services really is the funding for the Department of Public Safety's and specifically probation, psychological evaluations, pre-hire, and their medical evaluations. And we are always seeing those costs increasing.
Very good, thank you. Same page, 457. Again, it's not a large number, but why does rental of equipment increase by 48,000, and what type of equipment is this rental equipment?
Mr. Chairman, I actually know this. We had a conversation about it.
You know everything.
Well, because we just had a conversation about it. Again, I've mentioned 2025 was a difficult budget year, and where's the money in this county? It's in social services, public safety, and the sheriff's office, right? So we had a conversation about solid priorities, and we did question, but the leasing of body cameras is very impactful. And frankly, I question why not create a capital fund to buy them? But the director and deputy directors are all on the same page that for the services to be provided by our probation officers and the growing need to wear body cameras, they've talked to a number of places, and right now, economically, a $48,000 lease is the way to go for them.
Excellent, excellent. This may have been answered even in other committees, I don't remember, but still on page 457, what is the reason for all utility lines items being reduced to 0 in the 2025 budget?
I think, Mr. Chairman, these are not being eliminated, but they're being eliminated from this particular division. You'll find best place to look for utility costs is look at the department as a whole. And I say that because all our utility costs, whether it's steam and water, gas, or electric, are provided to us from our energy consultant, Fluent Energy. So I believe the answer here is it's just shifted to a different area of public safety's budget.
Great, thank you. On page 458, continuing on public safety probation, what is the reason for construction supplies being reduced to 0?
Chair, within the Department of Probation, we did implement or refine our property room and property management program. So probation does take in property, that's evidence, and we have to make sure that the chain of custody and the integrity of that is met and ensuring that it's safeguarded.
Excellent, thank you. Same page, why does equipment fall and again, small number, 5.5 thousand from 2024 adopted, and we spent 446,000 on it this year. Can we explain the difference?
Through the chair, this year, the probation department purchased new firearms to be able to provide our probation officers that are authorized to carry with updated and improved equipment. The life cycle of the previous issued firearms was end of life.
Wonderful, thank you. On page 461, Public Safety Communications. What is the reasoning for provision capital projects increasing by 600,000? I'm assuming a project?
That also, Mr. Chairman, is related to our conversations, and the priorities is really on our MDT replacement project, including the additional capability of having dual air carrier capabilities.
Excellent. One more question on that same page, 461. Why is there such a drastic drop in funding for equipment? In this 2024 budget, equipment was listed at 4.4 million, yet the 2025 budget lists equipment at 3,000. I'm assuming a different line change, or?
No, Mr. Chairman, this relates to the comment I made in our presentation regarding the State Interoperable Communications Grant. It was one-time funding that we.
Excellent, thank you. And my last question is on page 462, continuing on Public Safety Communications. Why does the FS debit debt service chargeback decrease by over 2 million?
Again, Mr. Chairman, I made a brief comment in my presentation. We are appropriating fund balance for a portion of the M3S LDC debt, which is really charged back to our Department of Public Safety, so the chargeback drops.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. I yield the floor.
Other questions or comments? Senator Cruz.
I would describe it the way it was described to me by a former employee in public safety. What you basically do is grab the 911 center, turn it upside down, and shake it. Whatever falls out is our responsibility. Whatever it doesn't is the city's responsibility.
I myself had some experience with 911, the centers, and first responders and whatnot. I know that very recently, in the last couple of years, there's been a push, and there may be even a mandate coming our way for an upgrade for the 911 centers to be upgraded to the next generation 911 centers. I know that the Governor Holker released millions of dollars to the county to do some sort of upgrades. Has, to your knowledge, through the chair, the 911 center has been upgraded, or is in the process, or is looking to be upgraded to becoming a next generation 911 center?
Through the chair, we're continually, obviously, upgrading whenever we can at the Emergency Communications Department, or 911. We're planning for and preparing for the next CAD upgrade, as well as other, technology there, and dispatch consoles, et cetera.
Through the chair, are we hoping to receive more state or federal funding to continue to push, or are we hoping to do more with the county budget to help the city work together in this intergovernmental shaking of the box that we have going on?
Through the chair, certainly, we're always hopeful that we're going to be able to get some additional grant funding and look for those opportunities to enhance our system. At this particular point, we're continually looking, but nothing identified as of yet. We value the ECD or 911 center that we have here. That public safety answering point handles 1.2 million calls per year, one of the largest in the state of New York. We obviously rely on that greatly, and most recently, a number of legislators have had the opportunity to tour that facility as we value its service.
Yes, and of course, they do an amazing job. And through the chair, just with trying to keep pace with regulations and whatnot, do we think that we're gonna be able to be up to par, up to regulations, once this comes down, or is officiated by the federal government? And then officially says every 911 center in the nation has to be up to this standard. Do we think we're gonna be able to meet that standard at that time?
Well, I think your question is very relevant, especially since just last week, the ECD 911 Center was accredited once again and met all of the standards and best practices of CALIA, which is the sanctioning authority associated with such an accreditation. So we continue to, work to making it better. We're very proud of the people that are working there, and we really appreciate everything that they do because they dedicate a lot of time and energy to their profession.
Through the chair, I agree with you 100%. I'm not the one boosting up the regulations, so I'm just asking, just to put that out there. I'm moving
That
on.
line of questioning, Mr. Chairman, and I do want to interject. I do appreciate that because I know this is coming, but we don't talk about it a lot. And I would like to redirect you to page 402 of the budget book. We are still paying for the existing CAD system to the tune of $760,000. Our computer-aided dispatch system is 10-year property. That's how long we have to pay it back. I believe we started paying this back in 2016 or 2017, so we have until 2026 or 2027. So I always stress to everyone I talk to, we have to continually improve, but we just need thoughtful planning behind that because if this were to change tomorrow, we'd be paying for two.
Right. What was that page number that you mentioned again? Just
402 at the bottom of the page.
correct. And through the chair, I would just like to add that I completely agree. It's just, I guess, thinking about future expenditures as they may come due to new federal guidelines. And I thank everybody for their job. So, yeah. My next question, if we may move on, has to do with through the chair, concerning the JETS program. I'm aware that the governor just gave this program another $1 million, which kind of aided. I don't want to call it babysitting services of the juveniles while they get through the system, but something along those lines. Are we expected to get that funding in the next upcoming cycle, or are we looking to back or add those $1 million from our own budget per se to continue JETS program?
Through the chair, certainly we always look for funding opportunities. We know that the JETS program has been extremely successful here in Monroe County. We know that it has accomplished much because when you look at the data, those individuals that are engaged in the JEDS program during the early contact with law enforcement and then with probation has a recidivism rate of, I think it's 3%. Am I right, Chief? So the value is the upfront value because we don't see those youngsters later on. We did get funding for that, and we have some additional funding. And as we see with this budget, with what the county executive has committed to, and hopefully the legislature will approve, is we would have the ability to create an additional unit and we can expand the JEDS program from a 2-week intense supervision program to 4 weeks. And we know that the more oversight and accountability and support that we give these individuals and their families is exactly what they need. So I think those county's doing a great job in providing those services, because if you talk to a parent, they will tell you that's exactly what they needed.
Chair, I just want to thank you and thank the administration for taking a chunk out, and administering in such a creative way to make sure that we could help our youth or troubled youth turn the right direction and forward to further investment in this program. My time.
Mr. Dendorfer.
Release electronic monitoring program. Progress made on the development of this plan.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Through the chair, the 2024 proposed budget lists an objective of developing a plan for the MCSO pretrial release electronic monitoring program. Was there any progress made on the development of this plan?
Yes, we looked at that and we tried to see how we could integrate into that. And at the end of it, we determined that the way things were now, there was nothing that we were really going to add by continuing down that. So we are not doing that now.
Thank you. Through the chair, was the data-driven approaches to crime and traffic safety employed?
Currently doing a data-driven approach for a lot of our traffic enforcement around MVAs and MVA areas, and we're also looking at using our data, coming up with a plan right now to use our data better to do more traffic enforcement in different crime areas.
Great. Through the chair, was a juvenile investigator position established in the sheriff's office?
Through the chair, it has not been established yet. We're just waiting for our next round of promotions, so we're just waiting till we got all our people off of FTO, so we just got this class out. We're getting ready to do promotions in January, and we're going to be creating one then.
Great, thank you. Through the chair, on page 383, over the past few years, the incarcerated work program has been suspended. Why hasn't this program been started back up again?
Through the chair, due to our number of sentenced inmates and inmates that are cleared for outside work, there's just not enough.
Gotcha, thank you. I will ask one question through all of this. On page 490 in appropriations, Sheriff's Administration, the local transportation / parking is added to for $11,000, and I see that's across the board for all the bureaus. Is that, can you just explain that?
Through the chair, that was moved from our staff services budget line and just put into individual bureaus. So the staff services went down and all the bureaus went up.
Thank you. Through the chair, on page 490, what professional services were performed to justify the $106,000 increase?
So the biggest thing in there is we're redoing the auditorium on the 6th floor so that it can be more usable, and you can hear the audio in there, and it can be used for more training and more, get the technology up to date.
Thank you. Through the chair, again on page 490, why did membership increase by $4,000, and what is that? What is that for?
Sure, so it's the memberships that are paid in the sheriff's office, but the biggest ones by far are the New York State Sheriff's Association, which went up quite a bit, and then we're rejoining the National Sheriff's Association for major counties.
Thank you. Through the chair, on page 492, the Civil Bureau, why does law enforcement safety supplies fall by $4,000?
The chair, could you repeat that?
Yes, on page 492, why does the law enforcement / safety supplies fall?
Through the chair, it's because we purchased vests in 2024 that we don't need to purchase in 2025.
Thank you. And through the chair, on page 493 in the Police Bureau, Leasing computer hardware decreases from $11.2 million to 0 from the 2024 amended budget to the 2025 proposed budget. Why is that such a huge decrease?
Sure, that was that New York State Tech grant that we got in 2024.
Is that in association with the REAC Center?
That is a large portion of what we're using it for, that and body-worn cameras.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair, software licenses falls by 50,000. Does that have to do with the above?
Through the chair, I'm repeating Bob Franklin, it does.
Thank you. Through the chair, what is the cause for the $100,000 decrease in rental of space, and what are we no longer renting?
Through the chair, the cost of renting or leasing the REAC is actually less than we were anticipating.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Through the chair, on page 494, continuing on the Police Bureau, why is there such a large increase in spending for books and periodicals?
Through the chair, we're reissuing the penal law to the patrol.
Good. Through the chair, on page 496, Sheriff's Jail Bureau, it says that overtime is falling by $11,000. Is staffing increased there?
Through the chair, I just want to go back to the last question. I gave the wrong answer. It was actually for the Sheriff's Summer Camp and Crime Prevention Materials. I looked on the wrong line, so that's what the increase was for. And then the 0.0002% increase in overtime?
Yes, I
Or
believe
decrease in overtime?
I do believe you're off by a 0, but go ahead, continue.
The decrease in overtime is just, we're taking that with salary.
Okay. And through the chair, on page 496, again, maintenance buildings increased by over $100,000 in the budget. Is there a specific problem in the building that's addressing?
Could you repeat that? Which line is it? Maintenance and buildings?
Maintenance, yeah, maintenance for buildings increased by over $100,000.
It was for, there's 33,000 for some work that CP Ward is doing, also doing some masonry and painting, that's $40,000, and then an elevator repair and some electrical work.
Through the chair, continuing with the Jail Bureau on page 497, can you explain why clothing, law enforcement safety supplies, medical lab supplies, so on and so forth, were all reduced to 0?
Through the chair, you're going to see that subsequent increase in staff services. So it was all moved to the quartermaster, so you're going to see them decreased in the different bureaus for those lines and increased in the quartermaster line in staff services.
Thank you. And through the chair, again on page 497, why do technical supplies fall by 20,000 in the Jail Bureau?
Move to the staff services quartermaster line.
Thank you. Through the chair, on page 499, court security. What's the reason for the overtime doubling from the 2024 budget?
For the overtime associated with this, with cap court.
Say that one more time, with the what?
I'm sorry, so we're looking at doing a central arraignment part,
Oh, okay.
and so it's the overtime associated with staffing that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. So through the chair, then on page 500, then for Staff Services Bureau, I know you said a couple things have moved in there. Says that local transportation and parking fell by 74,000. Is that because that was all reallocated to the different?
It was moved
okay.
to the different bureaus.
And then for maintenance, computer equipment fell by 70,000. What's the reasoning for that?
I'm not sure what you're looking at, which line you're looking at. The maintenance and computer equipment line for 504-290, on page 500, I'm showing it went up. And
From the 2024 adopted budget?
yes, sir.
Okay. I'll have to
Adopted budget, Mr. Chairman, really isn't presented in this budget book, and we don't have the adopted budget with us.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Through the chair, on page 501 for Staff Services Bureau, clothing increased by $25,000. What does that include?
So that was $35,000 of uniforms that were moved out, and then $60,000 of inmate clothing that was moved into the quartermaster line.
Okay. And then through the chair, on page 750, it appears that FTEs are increasing with the addition of 5 new titles and the addition and subtraction of positions to some existing titles, as well as group changes for titles. Can you provide an overview of these changes and why they're being made?
Through the chair, we've increased one position for in the Assistant System Support Specialist to assist our person in the sheriff's office now with some low-level technical. We've increased, management assistant was created for the sheriff data team. So right now, the sheriff's office, compared to, for example, RPD, is way behind in how we collect and look at data. So we're really putting effort and money into providing extra people in a data team so that we can better have our data accessible. So if you look at, for example, the open data portal for the city, there's a lot of wonderful information on that I would like to bring over to the sheriff's office, but first make it available to the people that work for the sheriff's office by having some dashboards and working on that. So we've increased positions for our data team.
Great, thank you very much. And last but not least, kind of piggybacking on Legislator Mafucci's comment, through the chair, is there anything in this proposed budget that the legislature needs to increase or change or move funding to better assist you guys in the sheriff's office?
Through the chair.
I mean, you could always use more money. Everybody wants more money.
Bob Franklin said no, and I'm afraid to say anything other than that. I will say, on a serious note, through the chair, that the county administration has been wonderful to work with, and when we need something, they're there to help us. And so working back and forth, that if we come to them with a need, if they can fill it, they do. So no, I would say no.
Good, I appreciate hearing that. Thank you, I yield the floor.
Solicitor Hugh Smith.
The factor that you've been utilizing for across all the various departments, is that factor just reflecting like current or historic vacancies in those departments? Or does it reflect a lack of intention to fill current vacant positions?
Mr. Chairman, what I've done is run an analysis of all county departments. I looked at vacancy rates from April of '24 and August of '24, and I compared them to the vacancy rates experienced prior to the pandemic. So I picked August of 2019, when it was a time where if you wanted a job, you could have a job. Between the vacancy rates in 2024 versus 2019, I looked which was lower. If the vacancy rate was below 5%, I didn't apply a vacancy rate. If the vacancy rate, minimum vacancy rate, was greater than 5%, I rounded down to the nearest whole percent and then backed off 3%, and then that became the vacancy rate to apply in 2025. In the Office of the Sheriff, since we are talking about the Office of the Sheriff, it experienced vacancy rates of full-time positions of 11.8% in August of '24, 13.5% in April of '24, but only 5.8% in August of 2019. I rounded down at 5.8 to 5. I backed off 3%. It came to 2%. That 2%, the dollar value of a 2% vacancy rate was within about $100,000 of the proposal to defund a number of deputy positions after we asked for help from the sheriff's office to trim our budget. My preference is to apply vacancy factors rather than defunding specific positions, because I don't want department managers to see or I don't want the budget office or HR staff to see a defunded position and immediately think, oh no, you can't fill that. The reality is, if we have a bunch of vacancies over here and we have a need for this position, you can fill that position. So it's just a better visual cue when management of various departments see funding for a position at the time a request to fill comes in.
Thank you so much for that thorough explanation. I really appreciate understanding it. Could you remind me of the vacancy rates for the other 3 departments within public safety?
Certainly. Our Department of Public Safety comparing 2024 versus 2019, the minimum vacancy factor was 9.1%. I reduced that to 9, backed off 3%. That gave me 6, but I only applied a 5% vacancy rate. I like numbers like that. 5%.
5's a great number.
District Attorney's Office, they have vacancies in '24 of 11.9 and 13.4%. It's much higher than they experienced prior to the pandemic, 2.2%. 2.2 is less than 5. I didn't apply a vacancy factor to the District Attorney. For the Public Defender, will surprise a lot of people. 2024 vacancy rates, 22.8%, 23.3% of the 2 different months. Prior to the pandemic, they ran a 4% vacancy rate. 4% is less than 5. I did not apply a vacancy factor for the Public Defender. All 4.
500. Thank you. Appreciate that. And my last question for now, anyway, is back to the issue of the JEDS program. I love the program. It's very valuable. Besides all the safety benefits that it provides, do you have an estimate of how much we're saving financially with the JEDS program as a result of the reduced recidivism rate?
Through the chair, at this point, it's hard to assess how much we are saving. We are saving a great deal in court costs because the youth are not going to court, which is what costs a lot of money and time. So that would probably be part of our next round of assessments and research to see what financial savings we are incurring.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Questions, Legislator Smith.
Mr. Chairman, the set of questions I have will be for the District Attorney's Office and the administration. So through the chair, a major objective listed for 2025 is to continue to work with the Rochester Police Department on the non-fatal shooting initiative. How successful has this program been?
Rewind. Dawn Staub from the District Attorney's Office. I can give you statistics on that program through the end of October. Their total case intake, and just to rewind, this is the first full calendar year of the program. Their total case intake was 109 through the end of October. They've indicted 29 cases. They have had 33 total dispositions. That includes trials and pleas with an 88% overall conviction rate.
Thank you. Through the chair, on page 475, why is overtime increasing by 120,000?
Mr. Chairman, we missed the last part of that question.
Oh, sure. So through the chair, on page 475, why is overtime increasing by 120,000?
Overtime is increasing primarily. $100,000 of that is for the centralized arraignment part. It is a stipend for the attorneys that will be assigned to that court on an on-call basis for 2-week rotations. So they will receive, since they're all MMPs, they will receive an additional stipend for that work.
Thank you. And through the chair, continuing on page 475, why has the mandated training budget line been eliminated?
Through the chair, primarily because we provide all of our continuing legal education training in-house free of charge, so we really haven't used that line, so this year we zeroed it out.
Thank you. And through the chair, on page 478, District Attorney Appeals Bureau, why are professional services being eliminated?
Mr. Chairman, this really is a subscription to Westlaw. And as we've said, we are trying to get all our software subscriptions in the account for software licenses.
Thank you. And through the chair, on page 749, what does the new evidence liaison position do?
Through the chair, the new evidence liaison position primarily has two broad functions. One is to work with a designated investigator in regard to looking at evidence on cold cases and pursuing that. And this individual also serves as an in-house trainer and expert, if you will, in regard to DNA evidence, and works with our attorneys whenever DNA evidence is involved in a trial or case.
Thank you. And through the chair, is there anything in this proposed budget that the legislature could better assist the district attorney's office with?
Is scowling at me. But I will say that we are very grateful for all of the courtesies extended to our office in regard to putting this budget together. We are very satisfied with it, and we hope that this honorable body will approve it.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Questions or comments? Legislator Vasquez-Simmons?
The Chair, to the administration, my question's in reference to ARPA. How much interest has accrued to date, and where are those dollars being allocated?
Mr. Chairman, we don't generally keep track of that. It has been reported in the past that is in excess of $10 million. But I need to tell this body, and perhaps I'll say it again at Ways and Means, Monroe County did not take advantage of the revenue replacement provisions of ARPA. We did okay with the CARES Act funding and the ARPA funding, and we are fully taking advantage of the fact that interest earned on the ARPA funding in our bank account can be used for general cash flow purposes. And I'll tell you why that is so important. Because we've had ARPA funds sitting in the bank account for the past couple years, we have been precluded from issuing a revenue anticipation note. This county has issued a revenue anticipation note for general cash flow purposes going back 25 years, every year. If we were not allowed to use the interest earned off those ARPA dollars for general cash flow purposes, this county could have been in a real significant bind. So that is why I suggest it is very important that we take full advantage of the fact that earnings can be used for general.
Legislator Colby?
Looks like there was a major decrease, over $100,000.
Mr. Chairman, this is for emergency management. Emergency management is a particular office that is heavily funded by grants. So what you see is almost $200,000 worth of grant funding in the '24 budget. So please expect to see multiple referrals come before the body throughout the year.
Thank you. On page 471, another salary question, and this is in the lab, crime lab. It looks like there's a $120,000 increase. Can you just give me a broad where that increase is coming from?
Mr. Chairman, clearly that increase is in comparison to the adopted budget for 2024. Not a lot of money. I will say that is contractually obligated pay step increase and the additional funding for CSEA pay raises. Again, all offset by the application of a 5% vacancy factor.
Thank you. Now moving on to page 636. Hopefully it's the right page. The state aid number is significantly decreased by 149,000. Is that grant money that we are maybe get again, or is that some other state money that decreased?
Our Conflict Defenders Office is highly funded, for the most part, by the Hero Herring grant. So that's why, at least on the amended budget, you see it's well over $14 million. The Conflict Defender does receive additional oil off New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services, again on another 3-year cycle, but far, far less than a Hero Herring grant. But that is why you see different amounts between the 2 years.
Thank you. On page, going backward, no. Let's not go backwards. On the page 638, I think it's grant money, but there's a fund balance from the federal government aid was zeroed out. Is that because that's grant money?
No, Mr. Chair. The fund balance of $150,000 was used to offset program reduction, to prevent program reductions in the 2024 budget. This is funded through, funding represents the accumulation over time of DWI fines that the county receives. When we have the Stop DWI program receives more in revenue than it expends that particular year, excess funding is reflected on our financial statements as restricted grant fund balance. Further support the Stop DWI program. And the department asked us to use $150,000 of that fund balance in the 24 budget to avoid significant reductions.
Thank you. The same page, the fine lot line looks like it's increasing by 306K. Is that the work zone camera or some other?
Not work zone cameras, Mr. Chairman. Those fines are retained by the state of New York. This really represents the estimated revenue from our school bus safety program and our contract with Bus Patrol.
A lot of school buses. 640. A surcharge increase, 200,000.
That's correct.
911.
That is correct and reflective of the annual revenues we've seen. This book shows 2023 at over 4.1 million, but I'm going to tell you part of that really is reflective of 2022. It was incorrectly recorded as 23 revenue.
And page 646. I want to make sure I get on the right page. There we have a fines decrease of 35,000.
Mr. Chairman, that fine decrease is what the supervisor, or the director, excuse me, of our Weights and Measures Division has suggested we budget. It is more commensurate with the actual fines levied by Weights and Measures over the past 2 to 3 years.
Thank you, and I yield the floor.
Questions or comments? I have one. First of all, thank you. Thank you for, the time of the night, 2 in a row. Mr. Franklin, your patience and your expertise, it's noted and it's appreciated. I wanted to try to learn something. On page 319, this is the crime lab. On the revenue, federal aid for the budget is 0. And I'm wondering, multiple times tonight and last night, we talked about anticipated or not anticipated aid coming in from federal or state. In some of the budgets, there's line items where revenue is anticipated. And in this case, for the crime lab, for federal aid, nothing's anticipated. How do you decide what you mark as 0 or what you mark as budgeted aid?
A lot of that, Mr. Chairman, is at the suggestion of our departments. Management teams either assess the predictability of recurring grants or the unpredictability of recurring grants. This particular line item for federal aid represents our forensic DNA grant. I would also say that in addition to the management team's assessment of how predictable annual revenue is from grants, we also assess how do those grants come to us? Annual 1-year grants, or are they typically multiple year grants? And it's much easier for most departments to accept the entire grant up front and just carry forward the unused portion into future years. So it's kind of a mix,
Okay,
Mr.
okay.
Chairman.
Thank you. Are there more questions? I wanted to add one more thing before we close. I've had the chance to, I rode along with the sheriff's deputy. I toured the 911 operations center. I've toured the jail. I've toured the crime lab. I've spoken personally with Director Tantillo, Under Sheriff Brown over there. Thank you. I just appreciate the work that you do. I appreciate the people that work for you. And I can't top what Legislator Mafucci said, so I won't try to, but I've seen and experienced excellence. And thank you. I'm proud to support it, okay? Yep. All right. Got something? Okay. Not yet. Are we closing? Are there any more questions for Mr. Franklin? No. Okay. I don't know is something going on here? I don't know what's going on here. Okay. So we're going to move on. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the October 22nd, 2024 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion. Okay, I was wondering what was going to happen. Yeah.
All with the exception of 24-0406 and 24-0409.
Want to say that back? An audible. It's a late inning audible. 2 sports references together there.
I have a motion on the floor to move the agenda except for 24-0406 and 24-0409. And that was moved by Legislator Dondorfer and seconded by Legislator Mafucci.
That's correct. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Okay. Referral 24-0406, authorize a contract with Seeger Services Group to provide polygraph examination services.
Motion by legislator Mafucci, second by legislator Vasquez Simmons. Any questions or comments?
Yes,
Legislator Dondorfer.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, were there any other respondents to the RFQ for this?
We had one other response.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, do we ever administer our own polygraph examinations?
Through the chair, probation does not have a polygrapher on staff, so that's why we RFP out.
Thank you. And then through the chair, when the polygraph exams come back, are they used as a factor for hiring, or is it just a guideline that you use?
Through the chair, these polygraphs are all for people who have been convicted of sex offenses.
I apologize. I was reading something completely
hire
different. I hope that they don't get hired then. But how accurate are, through the chair, how accurate are these polygraph examinations? Is there a way to measure that?
Through the chair, the accuracy of the polygraph, it's a tool used for the probation officer to do further interviews with the client, and oftentimes the client will then admit to different actions that we can use in a violation of probation.
Thank you. Before I yield the floor, I would just like to say that it's late, and I apologize for that little error there.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 24-0409, approve the collective bargaining agreement between the Monroe County Executive, Monroe County Sheriff, and the Monroe County Sheriff Police Benevolent Association.
Moved by legislator Mafucci, seconded by legislator Vasquez Simmons, and also seconded by legislator Dondorfer.
Got it.
Any questions or comments? Legislator Hugh Smith.
Through the chair, we can certainly work to reach out to the other agencies to try to get those numbers for you. It's not something that we have internally, but we will certainly reach out to see if we can get them. Through the chair, I don't know it offhand, but I can get that easily for you.
questions or comments? Legislator Milne?
My apologies. Through the chair, to the administration, what are the statuses of the other sheriff's office CBAs?
All of the CBAs in the sheriff's office are either in a current contract, and the PBA is set to expire at the end of this calendar year, and this will be the successor to that. So nobody is out of contract, through the chair.
Thank you for that. And one more quick question. Through the chair, if possible, can we get the result of the union vote on this contract or the percent passage?
It passed at 92% vote.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Questions or comments? Legislator Cruz?
Following some of the questions from Legislator Sue, how would I explain to other departments in the county why the sheriff's department get an 8% raise and others do not? Aside from the job description, I know there's a lot of factors that go into these type of things.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess I'm not really clear what the question is or the point of the question. All of the unions that have settled contracts have voted to do so. Their membership has agreed to that. This is the second contract that we're doing with this group of people. So I don't know that that's really an apples to apples comparison.
I guess to restate my question, the key word in your sentence being settled, right? I mean, we're all unions are going to settle for what they can get, you know, and meet people halfway. But it still cannot be ignored that an 8% increase is higher than that of other organizations or unions that have settled. So if the going rate for the sheriff's department settled because they've been behind in their pay scale for quite some time, so we needed to backtrack? You know what I mean? Like, why get a higher offer off the bat than other organizations, and therefore they were able to settle at a higher rate?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, these negotiations go on for many months. So this is something that's gone back and forth on. You know, and in terms of the road patrol, our agency, the sheriff's, the road patrol historically has been very underpaid relative to other departments, and there's a competition for the people who take the tests for the road patrol also are on the list for the other agencies that are there. We are at a disadvantage in terms of what we're paying people, and that's reflected in this contract. And again, I think it's a bad thing to start comparing somebody on their second round of contracts and worried about, well, you know, this group might not be happy and this group might complain about that. Again, I would just go back to stress all of the contracts that we have. First of all, I think what we've done has been unprecedented in, I would say, recent history, but I think it's probably even longer than recent history. We haven't had one negotiating unit that has been without a contract or that has gone beyond the expiration of their contract that we have. So, you know, and again, I'm not sure if people are hearing complaints from different unions, but I would be surprised at that, given how we really have made significant progress across the board in terms of our settlements with the different unions. And again, it's a much different attitude that we have as an organization, as an administration, in terms of valuing our employees and giving them contract settlements that are not drawn out. They aren't going without a contract for substantial periods of time, which there are bargaining units that have gone years in the past without a contract. Mr. Franklin just whispered in my ear, what was that? Oh, CSEA went without a contract for 8 years. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Again, our position would be this particular contract stands on its own, and we will negotiate in good faith with other unions as we go forward.
The chair, that's good enough for me. I believe that the chair serve, and I just needed an answer on the clock if per se. Thank you for the Sheriff's Department. One last question. Do we know the differential in pay between, let's say, the RPD and the Sheriff's Department off the top of your head?
Through the chair, at the start of negotiations, the RPD entry was 55,295, and it topped out at 102,651 after 44 months. And for the sheriff's office, starting was 54,883, and it topped out at 84,022, and it took 60 months to get to top pay. Through the chair.
Thank you. I yield my time.
Legislator Hughes Smith.
Follow up, listening to contract isn't restricted.
No, through the chair, this is only the road patrol.
Approach the administration has taken.
Legislator Dendorfer.
Thanks. Through the chair, I'd just like to explain my vote a little bit. God bless you. I know looking at these numbers, seeing an 8 and a 7 and a 6 and whatever is kind of a shell shock looking at those numbers. But what I'm reminded of for multiple years before this is that a lot of times they got a goose egg. They got a 0. So the numbers that they're getting right now are trying to catch them up. They're still going to be $13,000 to $15,000 behind the city of Rochester. And the reality of it is they're doing, pretty close to the same job. They're not responding to as many shootings, thank God. I hope they never do. But there's still that inherent risk, and they're working hard, and they're working hard to keep our suburbs safe, along with the warrant jobs that they do and the transport job, the prisoner transport jobs that they do. And I just think that trying to catch them up to be a competitive place in a market that does not have a lot of people to pick from in the pool, we're making strides forward to try and catch up to be that competitive place, and try to make up for the zeros that they've gotten for so many years. So that's why I'm going to be voting yes for this contract.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? One nay.
10-1 referral passes.
Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no other matters, the November 26, 2024 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m.